I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees. The time is 6:01. This is an open meeting of the Town of Auburn Library Board of Trustees. It's being conducted remotely, consistent, it's actually hybrid, we're here, but people are welcome to join us remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, which suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have the meetings in a publicly accessible physical location due to the state of emergency due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along in the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will allow for public comment under agenda items, and the public can join the meeting remotely by telephone or computer by utilizing the posted agenda that was posted by the town clerk. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. As a preliminary matter, this is Mary DeCourcy, Chair of the Board of Trustees. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Matt Toth? Here. Suzette Dowd? Here. Jennifer Shea? Here. Paula Melican? Here. Town employees participating, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jean Collins? Here. Thank you. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Auburn cable television. Also, please note each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. So I turn everybody to the first item on the agenda, which is to approval of the May 5th minutes. That's my mistake. They're supposed to be March minutes, so we're going to have to table that until the next meeting. Then we're going to move to the third item on the agenda. We'll start with Matt, if you don't mind, restoring the role of the APL-BOT, propose an amendment to the charter letter to the town manager and the town council and the amendment special act.
The subcommittee met 2 times, and in that process we wrote out what we hoped is the correct special act or amendment to the town charter to restore the role of the Auburn Public Library. In our conversation, we finally came down to the materials that you received that follow in Chapter 3, Town Officers, adding a section for the Library Board of Trustees. Underneath that is the description of the role of the Auburn Library Board of Trustees, and where there are additional language necessary in section 306 and 401, we've listed that, and a couple places where we need to remove that information. Now, what the hope is with this subcommittee that met, I'm just wondering if there are any comments or questions that anyone who was not there at those subcommittee meetings might have about this. It looked in the beginning like it might be a huge amount of work in terms of trying to find a location to place things, but we were able to do it this way. I think it is pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Any commentary from anybody? Questions?
Matt and whoever else is on the subcommittee, removal, can you just briefly tell me what the removal of those in quotes from those sections achieves?
It was adding sections later on that said, here's a long list of things that fall outside of the Board of Selectmen and the school committee, and then listed the Board of Trustees separately. So when we're putting it as a paragraph like the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, it would not be appropriate in those other sections that's listing it out, like maybe the planning board or some of the other commissions that were in those long sections that were moved. So it's really just cleaning it up so there's not the confusion that currently exists. And in order to do that, it was adding the new paragraph and then removing the one-word components where they would have been previously to make sure it's not confusing and conflicting.
Here, if I could just give you that,
Thank you.
then you can take a look where in the charter those sections where Jen just
Okay.
mentioned.
Is this an extra copy? Would you like this back?
No,
No,
that's
okay,
extra
thank you.
Of the charter.
Yeah.
But it's just like if we were creating this for, some cultural committee, they may have been listed in one section, but because we're now creating our own paragraph, we don't need to be listed in those. Because
Another-
the header of all of those other paragraphs say,
All right.
with the exception of the Board of Selectmen and School Committee, here's everything else.
Okay.
So we have to take ourselves out and become the, with the exception of.
Looks good.
Any other questions?
No?
Then on the backside of that is a draft of the letter from the chair of the committee to the town manager, and we had worked on this letter asking her to request town council to review this to assure, requesting town council review the proposed special amendment for achieving the goal of having the Auburn Public Library restore its responsibility based on Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 78, the statutory authority for libraries in Massachusetts, and to assure our role in the hiring, setting goals, and evaluating of the director, and reestablishing our role in improving the budget and setting objectives for spending. So this is really what we're asking before we meet with the Board of Selectmen to request a warrant item for the town meeting members to approve this. And the way this was listed on the material that was sent to us July 1st from town council, on page 5 and 6, it showed how there was the process for going to the Board of Selectmen, going to the town meeting, the legislator, and then that's that.
This is Mr. Hennigan's information?
Yes.
This is why we started with the request to ensure we're on the right page so that it can move to those next pieces.
Great. Looks good.
Anything in the letter at all?
Straightforward.
Are you looking for a motion to vote on it?
On both of
Is it-
these, yes.
Okay, very
I
good.
have one question. Reestablishing, does it have two E's? R-E-E?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking at it and said, geez, that doesn't look right.
You know, I went back and forth on it too, and then there's a RE establishing with a dash,
Right.
or you can do it this way, and they said this was typical for American English.
I'm looking at it, I know it's re-establishing, but
You're right.
good. That was my only question.
So do we have a motion to
I'll make a
present?
motion.
Okay, from Suzette. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Presented from Matt, okay. And can I call for a roll call from members of the Board of Trustees? And please say whether you are for it or against it, affirmative or negative.
Before you move forward, just clarifying the motion for all, sending a letter to Julie and continuing the process that the subcommittee started. Everyone's on board with that, just want to make sure.
Yeah, thank
That
you,
is the
thank you.
motion.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure we're all good with that piece.
So we have, sorry, please, no, go ahead,
Just make a
please.
comment?
Yes.
Jen, just clarify that again, what we're going to
So
do
we're
for...
motioning to send the letter that Matt just talked about to Julie to continue the process the subcommittee has started to correct the charter change.
Okay.
And that letter is the first piece because we're getting town council's involvement to make sure that we've got what we need to then present to the Board of Selectmen to continue the motion.
So what's happening with this side?
That gets sent.
That gets sent to the
That's-
letter?
That's our proposed change to the
Okay.
charter. So it's
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be just this, because they really need this.
Yeah, no, we want the town council's review on that. So Julie
Right.
would get both things so she can then shepherd that along.
Good job.
Or give us leeway to speak with other council to have that reviewed if that was a necessary step.
Great.
And if we had it reviewed by someone else who would,
It's only through permission through the charter if they're not granting it through town council.
town council.
And that would, I assume, would come from a response from Julie and we would go back and forth. But it's just reinforcing we're moving forward, we hope that Julie and town council would be our starting point, as they
Okay.
should be, and we would follow through.
So as I've said to some of you individually, my main concern, I totally agree that we're an anomaly. That something went wrong in the charter, leaving us, my prime issue with us, I know you all don't feel the same way, is the number of signatures we have to attain to get on the ballot.
We don't.
We don't, because we're going to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
We're using that third.
I'm thinking of just of our roles. No, I'm thinking about.
the elected.
This
Oh,
is just
yes.
evidence on my part as to why we're not like other boards.
Gotcha.
So I feel.
Excuse me, I
just-
misunderstood you.
Oh, that's all right. People misunderstand me a lot because I don't make sense all the time. But,
Well, there was a process that required getting signatures in the charter
yes,
screen, so
yeah,
it's
so I'm
confusing.
sorry.
We're on
I'm
the
going
mindset
back
there.
to like running for reelection
Yes.
and how frustrated I get every single time that I forget the number of signatures I need and I'm like a mad woman driving around town. So my position is, as I've said, that I agree this is an anomaly in the charter. I mean, they covered so much, I think they made an error in the library. But my main concern, as I have said, and I'm quite willing to vote in favor of moving this process along, but my fear is opening up other parts of the charter for review. I mean, this was a process that took so long. It's controversial. It was an excellent decision in my thoughts. So I'm just going to continue to put forth my concern there, that's all.
And we recognize that as the subcommittee, because we know, we looked at it all, we looked at everything we provided on how we could make these changes and what were required for steps under each different avenue to make a change to the charter. And as we looked at it again more clearly and in conjunction with town council's commentary on previous evaluations of documentation, that there is inconsistencies in the current charter and the reorg plan, and our goal is not to change or adjust anything outside of words tied to the Board of Trustees, so that it is clear and that the inconsistencies are corrected, so they're removed. That we have no goal to go towards Board of Selectmen or 12 steps down the line to move forward that has anything else to do outside of what's on that flip side, saying, add this paragraph so it falls in line a la Board of Selectmen, School Council, clean up the other areas that would be continual inconsistencies that could potentially come back if we just added the paragraph. Someone else might say, well, wait, you're over here. So we talked through that in detail about how do we move forward, what are we looking at, and what is our focus. And our focus was simply really changing that one section that Matt mentioned, 3. The subsections needed to associated with it and just sticking with that. So when it comes to the Board of Selectmen, I would wholeheartedly say we are emphatically discussing one finite section and specific language only, and nothing else beyond that.
Any other comments? I just want to make sure I don't talk over anyone. Okay, so we have Suzette motioned, Matt Toth seconded the motion. Can I hear from other members, yay or nay? Paula Melican?
Yay.
Jennifer Shea?
Yes.
Mary Kay DeCoursey, yay. So that's unanimous. Okay?
Yes.
Very good. So we're going to move on to, the board requested a distinction between what is operational and what is non-operational. So I sent this ahead to you a few days ago, and I wanted to see if we could just take a minute and look at it. If anybody has any questions, comments, or questions for the town manager that I can ask for clarification if anything's unclear.
My only comment is I think this should be tabled until we finish the charter discussion, because it's a moot point.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll support
And
that.
right now we might just get cantankerous unnecessarily trying to dive into that differentiation.
I like
it.
Because we're moving to clarify the confusion to begin with, and we can always come back to it.
I'll support that. So that is tabled along with the minutes.
Thanks, Jen.
No, thank you. I think that's great. I sent
I do
everybody,
appreciate that she got back to us and provided all the information. I just think
Me
a
too.
good discussion
Me too.
is worth it later on, not,
It was very-
not now,
yeah.
since we're going in that
I
direction.
agree with you.
Just want to clarify, I'm not unhappy about getting the information.
Thank you. So I just, in the spirit of You Belong Here, we've been talking about ensuring equity, diversity, and inclusion, and what we're doing in terms of like making the public know. We talked about this at our last meeting. How do we ensure people in the community feel safe in our library? So what I did is I was driving through Sturbridge last month, and there are these brilliant professionally graphically posted pictures of people that represent diverse communities. So there's some people with disabilities, different people from different cultures, different subpopulations. And the pictures were just the picture of, say, a couple who might be a LGBTQ, couple, and then just a smile and just the words "You belong here." So I reached out to the librarian, Becky Plimpton, last Wednesday, because this is something that's really important to the Culture Committee, which I'm one of the members of the Culture Committee. And I asked her, where did this come about? Tell me a little bit about the origin. Who was in the decision to discuss it? And where did that come from? And what she shared with me was that she, over the years, has put Black Lives Matter posters out on the lawn, the LGBTQ rainbow flag, things like that. And it really came to her as a librarian that she wanted to make a message coming right from the library out to the community. So she made a point to hire a graphic artist to take these portraits and to provide this sort of nonverbal message to the community that whether you belong to a different religion, you're a part of a minority in any way, that you can feel safe to come here. She said initially it was her idea, but then she said she reached out to the chair of the Board of Trustees, who's also on the Culture Committee in Sturbridge, Joyce Sinnott, and they discussed the plan, and the Cultural Committee provided $5,000 to market this idea, You Belong Here. The feedback that she gave me in terms of the vision of it, where the trajectory is and how it's going at this point was, the vision was initially hers, but then she reached out to the community because she was really looking for a diverse base to hear from different people. She did that. She got a 9-person committee together, and they agreed on this. As I said, they were funded by the Cultural Council. So I asked, where's the trajectory? She said, well, we just started this spring. We started with children's books and just really, trying to welcome people in. And she said that several patrons have come in and said, this is the first time I've ever come to the library because of those messages that you have on the lawn. So when I say the graphic, they're almost like 6 graphic posters as you're driving by the Josiah Hyde. And it just really, it's kind of touching, to be honest. So I asked her if she would be interested in hosting sort of a presentation for the Auburn Cultural Council. And she agreed, and she suggested that she also have the Sturbridge chapter of the Cultural Council, which is exciting to me because we tend to be in silos in terms of when we're granting monies for things. So what we're talking about is a more inclusive approach to providing grants in a regional way. So I just wanted to share that with everybody because we talked about this at the last meeting. It's one of our strategic plan goals is how do we message to the community that everyone belongs, everyone's safe. And what she said was she admitted that the You Belong Here was a tag that she borrowed from a college from her hometown. But I just thought it was a really neat, she said it's not a campaign. She doesn't want to call it, she wants it to be considered like a diversity, equity, and inclusion sort of initiative.
Kind of an invitation almost.
Isn't that neat? Yeah.
It is.
I wanted some feedback about that because it's something that's very important in terms of the strategic plan.
Well, I know her, and she's pretty creative.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not seen those signs yet. I will Thursday.
Oh, great.
But I haven't seen them. But the whole concept sounds, well, it's just so clearly an invitation.
Very.
And you can see yourself in pictures, and that's easy enough to do.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm glad that the Cultural Council is involved in it as well. And it can build very much on that diversity and inclusion and equity statement policy that we talked about earlier in the year.
Yep.
It fits with that.
Do you have a timeline on when that meeting presentation is happening for the?
Yeah, we were talking, and again, it would be, the library staff would be, the audience would be both cultural councils, and I wanted to leave it open for an invitation if anybody would like to attend. But we talked about, what she had to do is talk to Joyce Sinnott, I think I'm saying it correctly, and then get back to me, and Joyce is gonna call me about a date. So I was hoping that the cultural council, we could get out maybe September, to just, be able to be a little inspired, because our grants are released in October, they're publicized. So I was hoping that we could get some excitement in Auburn around inclusion. And when I'm thinking of inclusion, I'm not just thinking of people with disabilities, but people of different cultures, the seniors in town. Like, how do we advertise that we really want our community to be present? So that's the plan, and I'll
I think
send
the
that.
middle school and high school should be targeted too.
I agree.
Because they're people that we want in the library, you know?
That's right.
Well, it's a good partnership across all of them. It's,
Right.
Right.
The posters you've talked about, or the yard signs, can be there, but also tying, if the library had this selection of, reading lists, for lack of a better phrase. Here's some children's, here's this middle school, and then they are partnered and shared at the school, so they're cross-promoting them, they're talking about them there may be accompaniments, and like, if there's a series of books, then maybe you talk about one in school, but you guys have the other ones available on display. Could be a really cool way to make sure that it's touching a variety of resources, and then even opportunities like fire, police, all of that can have that cross-community. I mean, it really sounds much more like a community-driven initiative that just happened to come from someone within the Sturbridge Library versus a library initiative that bled the other way. And I think that's a really great means to continue to connect in any avenue that's feasible.
It's interesting. We got an email, all of us did, I think, from MBLC talking about, it was a NPR podcast, I guess, on libraries and the value of libraries and the importance of being a social hub, which we talked a lot about during the strategic plan.
Right.
And really, when you think about it, that's what she's doing.
Right.
And I think the notion of somehow really encouraging that is important.
Not just sitting back and waiting for it to happen. You have to be proactive to...
Yeah.
Well, it's really great. It actually makes me, I had the news on this morning, and the Today Show actually had a whole piece on, this is going to sound wrong, so I'm phrasing it right, but it's like, take out a person and they were the book to learn like their experience. You could just describe some unique populations. It was really that type of thing, like, tell me your history. What's your experience like? I was not fully listening to the whole thing, but got the gist of it. But I think that concept could come through and could be easily weaved into something like this, saying, let's just get to know each other a little bit more and find the commonalities.
And allow people to share their own identity.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do,
Absolutely.
then you have that opportunity to go ahead and do that.
Couple of
If you would-
details I want, sorry, go ahead, please.
If you let us know when that meeting is,
I will.
if it's possible for
Right.
people to come
Oh, very
and just
good.
listen to it,
Okay.
so nobody has to participate.
I did ask, though, about the teenagers, because I wanted to know if they're doing any better than we are. She said the teenagers are a tough population to get into the library. I shared with her that we had a regional cultural council chapters from all across Massachusetts, about maybe in 2017, and a common thread is that a lot of people would like to get more regional in terms of how we can work together and promote inclusion, diversity, and equity. And people tended to work in their compartments. You mentioned the middle school and the elementary. We have a couple of applicants every year from the middle school, but that's about it. So we would like to be more, really promote and really talk about how we can just enhance what people are trying to do.
We had, I guess, 12 kids that indicated at one point that they'd be interested in talking with us. So at least there was some interest in it. And then the follow-up that you're talking about for a survey later, we can certainly get more information for students that might be interested.
Absolutely. But again, I'm not, if people would like to come, I'd like to invite people to come. I'll let you know right away. But I just thought it'd just be interesting to hear from others. And again, I'd like to meet the Sturbridge Cultural Council so that perhaps we can work together a little more closely.
And maybe tell us the date, and then if people are able to make it, great. If not, you're able to provide an update, recap of how that went and learnings, and we can see if there's anything we can support from our end in Auburn, and that might be an opportunity.
So I'd like to offer a couple of comments in this as well. I agree, it was a fantastic idea. I know Becky, we'd actually spoken a couple of times, and actually just spoke with her again a week or so ago about, what she'd been doing. I believe she said the money came from the Board of Trustees, but
I'm sorry,
sure, so
I think I misspoke, because Joyce is on both the Board of Trustees and the Cultural Council. She's the chair of both, so yes, you're right.
Did it
So
come from their friends group? If it's the Board of Trustees, the Board of Trustees doesn't have any money.
Well, what they did too was they sold some of the things that they could sell. That went to the Friends, and then the Friends used that money to
So it
donate
did
back
really come
into
from
the
the
program.
Friends, not from the
No,
Trustees.
the initial 5,000 came from the Board of Trustees.
That was her
Well,
statement. That was her statement.
yeah.
She said the
Yeah.
Board of Trustees, and she stated that Joyce is the chair of both.
We don't
And
have any
she
money.
We don't have any money, though. I mean,
I don't know what.
Well, I
they
think
have
there's
money.
creative ways to look at this. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that was,
Yeah.
because it was such a collaborative effort. And like she said, I would not have been able to do it now to get it off the ground. It was months of work, but they
Right.
were able to work on that, like over the shutdown and so forth, and then have some committees with, people from town and some staff members, and they were able to build it that way. So I agree. I mean, it was a great initiative. I told her, I said, oh, I wish I thought of that. But, I think it's great. I think there's ways we can maybe, for instance, in my report, I do have a mention here of an online teen book club partnership with 5 other libraries, so we're starting to kind of put that together. It's pretty expensive, so we're trying to see if the author will do a little bit less. But I think there's definitely some ways that we can, see what can we do. It doesn't have to be the same thing, obviously. And they're doing it for a year, and then she said it's very hard to assess it. They only really can see the comments and how many times the books are borrowed, and they had a Zoom program and nobody went. And, but you have to just, you try things and you see what they work. But it is a very good idea, and I think that would be great. Julie and I had a very sort of tiptoe into a conversation about a town-wide, like you were just saying, police, and we didn't get that far with it, but just something along the lines of definitely bringing in the schools. We're actually beginning to, we haven't had time to actually put them in the window, but we did collect a lot of our diversity books from all ages, and we're going to be putting those in the foyer and so on, to kind of bring that to, up to speed too. But it is, it's a major, that was a major project. There's no reason we can't do a major project.
Yes.
I think it just has to start somewhere. So I agree that it was a great idea.
I think the big thing that's exciting more is that it was outside the 4 walls of the library, in the sense that, from what you've described, because I have not seen it myself either, that it's in your face as you drive down. It's on a side street that you wouldn't have thought of maybe, versus just in the small radius around the library, that encourages, oh, there's going to be
people
something
who
great
haven't
to go,
gone in
Right.
I
to the
see the
library to see
sign.
it.
Right.
Now I want to go here and check out the books, versus maybe targeting someone there from the signage we have or the displays inside. Those are all great too, but I think, to me, what resonated is that we were trying to get excitement across
Yes.
about both the You Belong tagline, but also the resource to help you feel like you belong is the library in this case. So it could be in all of these really great partnerships.
Right, and I think too that, I don't think I put it in my report, but we've definitely noticed, especially since, sort of restarting after the pandemic, we have at least a 20% increase in different ethnicities visiting our library. Mostly families with children, and it's fantastic. We see grandmothers bringing her grandson to the library for our story program because he doesn't speak English. There's, at least a 20% increase of about 5 different ethnicities. So, people are talking to each other, they're coming for one, and they come for a different thing too. So, I think definitely we've got the seeds to kind of get started with this.
And thank you for making that
Sounds good.
clarification. It was the Board of Trustees. Now, she didn't expand on the fund, whether it was the Friends, but she said it was a donation from the Board of Trustees in the library to support the initiative.
I think your question's valid because it'd be worth understanding more because
Yeah.
we can't.
Absolutely.
Right, well, I thought it was a typo.
Not
I
even like
said,
we don't have the money, but like
said that must be a
fundraising
typo.
is not something we're.
Yeah,
But you know,
really
there could
do.
be some from Friends, some from the board, some from state aid, some from appropriate. You know, I think
Oh,
that
I think there's other
you have to
creative ones.
figure out where you want to go with it. And like she said, they started with 3 and it quickly grew to 5 because graphic designs are, you know, all of that, they had somebody do professionally. That's
But I think
very
it's curious to
expensive
understand
too,
more
so.
about how it actually came about so that we are not limiting ourselves in any way. Or as you just mentioned, if there are grants from the cultural committees,
Right,
like,
right,
why are we not like
right.
jumping in that pot
Yes, right.
and going from there
Sure.
if it's not something to.
And collaboration is really the thing that I'm looking for. Like, I thought if we could sort of create a friendship between, you know, the Cultural Council in Sturbridge, maybe in the library, then that could expand to other things, so.
And also it doesn't hurt to not reinvent the wheel.
Right.
If
That's
we
true.
hear from them,
I agree.
things that were successful and things that weren't. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the population differential is between the towns.
She said it's 97% Caucasian.
97% white, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the number for the town
Yeah,
is.
with
I
the
think it's
population.
about out.
Is it about the same as
I think
ours?
so, I don't
Thought it
think
was
it's
around
drastically different. Might be a
12,000.
little less.
A little less, okay.
But even if you carried it on, even if you utilize their graphics, as
Oh, of
someone who
course,
happens to
yeah.
travel in both places to see someone that says, yes, I really do, like, I'm seeing this in multiple spots, and it can resonate in a whole different manner.
And we have the new lighting on Brotherton Way. And I believe each of
Put them on
those
the flags.
are,
That's a
they
great
have
idea.
a spot on them for display, whether it's seasonal or whatever.
I want to just reiterate what you just said, because you said they have these
Put 'em on the
beautiful,
flags.
Brotherton, those beautiful,
Yeah.
what do we call them, streetlights? And it would be perfect to have those types of banner flags.
Yeah,
right.
They do that, and I think it's in Fitchburg, they do it with the school, as you're coming up to the schools. It's just so, it's very, it's nice school spirit, but I think in this case, what I liked that she had to say, and I was impressed with her, was that she stated, you know, there are messages from the outside that are indirect, like the flag and the Black Lives Matter, that it's the voice of another community speaking, but she wanted to be speaking to all communities and saying, you're welcome here, and you belong here. And I was excited.
Has done that now that I think about it, and I think Nan and I were there when there was a program at Shrewsbury. They had a very, very strong push for diversity issues. Their strategic plan had quite a big component of that. So that may be another place we might check out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I put on Friends 501c3 update. Oh, did we have anything else? Did I jump over anybody just now? No, okay, sorry. We were talking about putting together a subcommittee to discuss how to sort of prepare the library to sort of host the 501c3 volunteers, the Friends. And I didn't know if anybody wanted to volunteer for that or talk about that.
Suzette already is
Yes, you do.
coordinating
Yeah.
that.
I would
You
like to be-
voted me. I mean, I got elected when I wasn't in a meeting, but that's okay.
Technically, because the motion was the chair would appoint.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
So we did it.
Well,
we just
I will
became
take it, but I'm
married.
not doing it alone. I mean,
Okay.
I need some members.
well, I'll do it with you.
Thank you, Mary.
No trouble.
I thought I was on it.
Do we have to have?
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Would you like, that's great. Okay, very good.
Should've-
All right, we're committing it now, early.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so do you want to talk about it? We'll talk about offline when we're going to meet,
Okay.
okay? But I do want to participate as well. So the
Is there any update from Paul
Okay.
Shea on that front end?
No, what's interesting is, the last update I had was that everything was returned to us because it had to be done electronically. Now, the information will come to the library, and then Jean asked, or gave it to Paula the last time. So we'll hear, as soon as it gets to the library, I believe that's where the IRS will be sending it. And I think it comes in your name, but I'm not sure.
It just says friends, and Gina
I
always
always
makes sure I get
Okay.
it, yeah.
Yeah. So that should be relatively soon.
Okay.
Because they said once it was done electronically that we would hear.
I have a
I
question.
know this is like they return the check.
Linda Gaddis is the person who was on all the forms sent to the IRS to be the president.
Right.
Can she be a part of this committee too?
That's the way the motion was done originally, was that you could include members of the community who might be helpful.
Well, we have two offices that have agreed to be the offices until it's voted upon. And it was Diane Spanos is going to be the clerk and Linda Gaddis is going to be the president.
Right.
So I think they should be included in
I think that'd
the
be great.
I
subcommittee
totally
too.
agree.
Great.
I agree.
As long as they have a copy of the bylaws,
Okay.
Yeah.
and if you don't have a copy, I can get a copy to you.
Okay.
A couple copies.
I think they have a copy because they had to sign that.
Yes, they did.
And I gave them a copy when they signed it.
Good.
Very good. Jean, would you like to present the director's report?
Okay, so just some updates under technology. The Stockard app has been very well received. Lots and lots more people are bringing up. We don't have a way to track how many are registering because it's through a different app. It's not our proprietary app. But a lot of people are using it. We have the handouts right there at the desk. They're very happy to see that there's an option besides digging through their purses or their wallets or whatever to find the apps. To find the cards. So we've also gotten some teens to put them in their phones because they never seem to have their cards with them. So it's working very, very well.
I have a quick question. It says it was developed by John. Is he a new employee?
That's the QR code.
That's the QR code.
Oh,
So
all right.
Stockard is the wallet
Yeah,
app that you can download through your iPhone or whatever. Okay. So we have a couple of technology things going on. The online book club, I'm still in the process of setting that up. That should be deploying at the end of August, and we'll be putting a lot of promotions out there. So it doesn't take the place of the in-library book club, but it's an option for people who can't come or don't want to come or, just maybe want to try e-reader. They also we will also get them the print book if they want to. It's set up by a professional moderator to sort of keep things on track and kind of so that it doesn't, And so as I have more information, I'll give that to you. Our QR codes, and I have to give Mike and John a lot of the credit for this. They're already working. We just have getting a couple of different logos. So the one that we have that John came up with has the QR code on it, and there's a logo of a teen like on a skateboard. So I thought that's a good one to put over in the teen area. And then I sent him a couple of other logos. So we will put one more child-related in the children's room because you just put them on the wall, and then some others over in the adult section with the library logo on it. So we've already tried them. Works really, really well. It'll go right to the catalog. So that'll help us too, because sometimes when we're out helping somebody, then we have to go back and look up the catalog. We've got to bring the iPad around with us. So they'll be able to just literally hold it up and get to the catalog. So,
On the QR codes, the interesting thing with that is you'll be able to do evaluations of programs with QR codes as well. So a person can just do that with their iPhone, and it'd be simple and straightforward, and the data's right there. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, we have some other ideas for it as well. Probably getting to the Museum Pass program where everybody's just kind of stalled this summer, so we're going to have to regenerate that. So there are some good options for using the QR codes.
And I assume Mike and John are the town of Auburn's
IT department,
Yep.
yeah. So I really have to give them most of the credit on this. They really helped pull us together. Constant contact, so we have hit the 500 mark, which is great. These are all people who are, I don't preload with any distribution list or anything. These people all want to be on it, and our click rate is pretty high. It's about double what I hear from other libraries. So people are getting the information about the programs through Constant Contact. And we have hit the 500 mark, so I think that was really good to see that. Our summer reading program was 4 weeks this summer. This was written before. I think we're up to 70-something registrations and probably over 300 hours from children from reading this summer. So they were very enthusiastic. Probably one of the nicest comments we heard was a neighbor brought her children in, and then about a 10-year-old boy and somebody else, and And she said he didn't want to read, but he discovered Wings of Fire, and he just kept reading. And so that's really the best. Doesn't get any better than that. So, and kids came in very proud of their beads, and so it was very busy with that. So we continue with our weeding project. I know that I kind of report a little bit on this each month because it's not a 1-month project, it's a year project. But we are making a lot of progress. We are able to, in fact, when the whole diversity thing came up, that's one of the things that we paid a lot of attention to, because weeding, you don't just take things off the shelf, you've got to see what you want to explore and what you want to expand. And we do have an awful lot of really good books on all kinds of diversity and cultural ideas. In our Vox book, which continue to circulate significantly, we now have dual language categories in Spanish, Chinese, French, German, Korean, Russian, Arabic, and Tagalog, which is the Central Philippine language. So at some point, we're going to have a program with children to just kind of explore how do you say this in this language, because the books actually are the same. So you can read the same book in English and Russian, but then you can also read it in English and French. So it's a really nice way to hear the accents and just kind of really get an idea of how that works. And those, again, those circulate on a lot. At least, there's at least a third of them out at all times. The in-library book club, I did make...
Dean, excuse me, but in the weeding project, there's something struck me, and I think you can probably explain it. Removing culturally insensitive titles, what does that mean? I thought...
Some of them, like Little Black Sambo, like, you don't really have that on your shelves anymore. Those are the things that are usually routinely weeded for different reasons. You have to be very careful you're not banning books, and that's what we're doing. We're not banning books.
Yeah.
We're just making sure there's sensitivity. It's really no place for things like that in there, but if somebody wanted it, we probably could find another library that has it. I don't know, we didn't check. So things like that.
No, I would guess that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Things like, we refer to Native Americans, not Indians any longer, those kinds of things. So we just want to make sure that we're really evolving with the way society is.
It's funny because I ordered all the Dr. Seuss books that were stopped being published, and I had a very difficult time in both of them finding all of this material that was so bothersome. But I mean, I accept that somebody noticed it, but I wanted to see it myself because of all the controversy.
Well, most libraries put them on lockdown because people were borrowing them and not returning them and selling them on eBay.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
they thought, I don't care if I get a library fine, I'm going to get more for it on eBay.
Industrious.
So most libraries were not lending it anymore. So I met with Rose Lade, who I had seen her a couple times over the summer anyways about the book club. So they agreed to move to Monday evenings, which is a better evening all the way around. So we're not moving them to the break room, and there's not as many conflicts on that evening. And their first meeting is September 13th, and she'll do a lot of the coordinating. She and I will connect, and then she'll send out to the members. And we will continue to get the books when people want them. We do our best to also get large print, traditional book on CD or an ebook, so some of them have different reading type.
Except for this September, everybody got their own.
Everybody got their own for that one, I believe, yes.
If you're interested. What are they reading? Magic of the Bees? I think it's Magic of the Bees. Let me look.
It is.
There's beads.
1 minute.
Bill schedules are attached. I guess I'll go through this, and if you have any questions about the bill schedule.
Gene, I didn't get the bill schedule.
The Music of Bees, sorry, not magic, music.
Yeah, she sent it, I just didn't print it. I figured it was sizable.
I can look at it next time, it doesn't
Sorry, yeah.
matter.
I thought, let me see if I
Because
have.
I'll check it online.
I had literally my floor spread out with with different documents for everything. And you have it online.
Yes,
Anyway,
yeah.
and maybe somebody else looked at it and has some questions about it. So I am all about partnerships and collaboration. I love putting those things together and being part of it. So one of them that I discussed earlier was a teen book club partnership. So we're kind of in the early stages of that one. One of the other libraries is the one of the other library directors is the one who connected with the author. So we're seeing where that goes. Story Walk partnership with the Auburn Mall. I was on vacation, she was on vacation, so she touched base again today, and I haven't had a chance to get back to her. So we're looking at some different ways to sort of promote that. We have Story Walk ideas of our own, And so we're going to get together and see how that might work, in partnership with the Auburn Mall.
Would that be similar to what Molly used to do at the mall with books?
I wasn't here at that time, so I don't know. I wouldn't, we absolutely don't have the staff to have somebody sit at the Auburn Mall with books, but I know that there's a way that we can find to
They've done it
either-
at the Ecotarium, and
Yeah.
I
I
used
would
to
make
bring...
say the mall is not an ideal location.
not
just
anymore.
because.
No, it's dangerous.
No. I mean, it could be
dangerous.
something like...
I just think, unfortunately, you don't get the flux that they need, and I let's assume you're ready to like come with a great idea when you meet together. With the pandemic, it's even slower to like have people
Yeah.
come back to them. Not that I don't think it couldn't. I wonder
Yeah,
if
that
finding
wasn't
it
where
out
we
at
were
all,
gonna
like
go
the
with that.
struggle right now to find
Yeah.
the mall.
In fact, I told her right away that wasn't where I would want to go, and if that's where she wanted to go, we might want to see where our, decide what the ground rules might be. But, we'll come up with something or we won't.
I mean, it's
We
worth
don't
the
know until
What
we
they
try
did
it,
at the
so.
Ecotarium is they would take books and photocopy them or whatever they did to it, and then put them on little stakes, and you had to follow around and read the
Yeah.
book.
Yep.
So you can do things like that with an alphabet walk
Right.
or story walks around the library. You do have to be careful about intellectual property, about
Right,
taking a
you
page
have
out
to
of somebody's
get-
book and posting it somewhere, so you do have to be careful about those
But
things.
it's also worth in the sense of expanding back to the you belong here, a QR code component. It can be a book scavenger hunt,
Right.
find your books here and then go to the library to get your next one type thing. Or it
Right.
takes you to the reserve, that particular topic, or alphabet as you just said. There's lots of opportunities
Yeah,
that
there's
way
a
that
lot of
can get you
Right.
a larger mass of view potentially than just inside, inside one spot.
So I'll go through quickly. I know the other meeting is at 7. So I'd also been talking with the Chamber of Commerce. So in the fall, they had the Scarecrow program pretty much over at the fire station, but for various reasons, we're looking at doing it along the grounds of the library, and we can help promote that because that is town businesses. Partnership with Hanover around winter when they show the Nutcracker. We're talking about having one of the actors there come to the library and either present part of that program or do some of the dance. So we're working on that and possibly some other ones too. Kind of depends when that goes too. I just put this in here because the collaboration with the Auburn Post Office, because of Drury Square and everything, they wanted a job fair and they really didn't have a place to put it. So she contacted me and I said, sure, it's the Auburn parking lot doesn't belong to the library anyways, it belongs to the town. But we worked with them, they had a great turnout, we helped them with tables, and then we set aside the history room so people could come in with laptops and actually present, do their resumes and so forth. So they ended up with 62 applications, they were very, very happy. So that's a good partnership with another
like that.
organization in
Yeah.
town.
I do too.
Lost our next person.
Upcoming virtual program with Edward M. Kennedy Institute, the Real Life Civics. So they're very much on board with this. It's a matter of putting it together. It is about an hour-long program. There's also an option for students. So I'm going to be talking to somebody at the school and see if they want it's a different level of the program. So that'll be a virtual program. I know I will find it very interesting. And so that'll be promoted along with, when other programs coming up. So upcoming Hands-on Nature, our summer camp series. So I just sent out the promotion today for earthworms and the insect ones. Those are both almost full already. I will be sending out Liz Barber. So this is our first foray into streaming it via Zoom into the large screen in the library, and if people want to view it at home, I will send them another link. This is, along with many presenters, will no longer come in person to libraries. But they're also not getting a lot of, I don't know, people are, they've been in front of screens a lot, so we'll see how that goes. I always liked her programs in the library because she cooked really good food. We got to have some. Our ongoing weekly toddler program is always filled to capacity, usually within a couple of hours of promoting it. And so that's where I'm seeing there's a lot of diversity coming in with children, making friends and so forth. And these other recently held programs are Creation Stations. We had about 40 people. This was the recent one we had. Those people stay an average of 2 hours, and that was only there for 4 hours. We set up different stations all around the Merriam Room. And so it's really nice to see a lot of people making friends, seeing people they haven't seen for a while. So that's definitely where the whole social hub of the library comes into play, I think. Does anybody have any questions about the bill schedule?
No. I have one question. I just gotta find it.
CW Mars, there's a $31,135. Is that only once a year, I hope?
Yeah, yes, it is. That's our annual contract
All right.
that provides us
That's
with
what
the
I figured,
network
but I
and the
thought,
cataloging and certain services from CW Mars.
right.
And it's a little higher this year, but it's generally between 30 and 32,000 a year.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? In terms of the, sorry, did you say something?
I was just going to say on the ARIS report, if we could hold that for the next meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
What does that have to be in? What was the?
August 27th,
Okay.
but it's already been submitted and locked and so
Great.
It just as a sort of an FYI about the ARIS report, it's the second year with this new software. You can't compare to last year, you can't compare last year to the previous year, and the software was different. And so there's been a lot of changes. It's really hard to measure things, and obviously I had a lot of edit checks because everybody did, because numbers don't reflect, what they did the last time. One thing that was new, which I thought was great, is they have a new category now for ages 0 to 5, instead of just lumping like up to age 12, because they're so focused on making sure everybody is doing whatever they can for early literacy.
Absolutely.
So that really falls
That's
in
good.
completely into play with what we do. We do a lot for early literacy. And so they agreed that that's so important that it's now a different category, an additional category.
Thank you. Anybody else? In terms of the reason I wrote to be determined is for the next meeting on we're meeting with the Board of Selectmen on Monday, September 13th. We're on the agenda. So I wanted to present to the board whether we want to meet before that meeting as we are doing today, or whether we wanted to just attend that meeting.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of just doing that meeting. However, if we get information back from town council, we may need to meet on that September 1st date.
Okay.
And maybe that's just maybe what we can do is ask if it's okay if the subcommittee meets, in case there's some trouble with that, which would be much easier to organize than the whole meeting.
I would propose that we stick with actually the 13th and do it like a 6 o'clock beforehand. And we could just submit a subcommittee meeting for the first if need be and cancel it. But I think doing exactly what we're doing today,
Good.
so that we can have, even if it's just, we want to now schedule or we want to meet with the Board of Selectmen for that piece, we have it done, versus meeting just on the first.
Now, you don't have to post if you're to meet as a subcommittee, do you?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah? Well,
Yes. Yeah, I'll be happy to talk to you about that.
all right.
So
But I would-
Actually, Mary did that for us.
Yeah,
So I approve I'm sorry, what did you just say?
scheduling the meeting.
Yeah, you're the one that set up the subcommittee meetings
Oh, that's
for our
right.
group.
That's right. I
Yeah.
sent out the emails.
Yeah.
That's when I sent you the email saying that you were nominated. So our next meeting as a team will be at 6 o'clock on September 13th, which I want to remind everybody is a Monday, because that's the Board of Selectmen's night to meet. And if there's not,
First book club. Well, that's it.
so do I have a motion to
So
adjourn?
just to clarify, we're going to meet the 13th at 6 for the entire committee, 7 p.m. with the Board of Selectmen Joint Committee,
Yes.
and we're going to put a subcommittee 9-1 agenda, and
Yes.
those 3 will be submitted.
Which anyone can come to, because
Yeah.
they're posted
Yeah.
meetings.
But we'll get all 3 of those minutes so they're out of
Sure.
the way. We can always cancel the first if it's not necessary because we have not heard information back.
Are you adjourning the meeting right now?
Yes.
Because I'm here with 5 of my neighbors, and we were told to come here tonight to present. We were given 3 minutes to discuss issues on our street.
But you know
I
what?
think you're in the,
This is the Board of Trustees.
This is the library
It's a
meeting.
selectmen's meeting.
No,
Oh, that's
it's
right,
not.
that's
It
7
starts at
o'clock.
7 o'clock. That starts at 7.
All right, so is the next room over?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought, okay.
Wow. day.
Well, I'm here at 6:30, so,
You guys
wow.
were over here.
I know, they told us to come at 6:30, so.
Well, we were pleased, we thought you were interested.
I know.
Well, I have to admit, it was exciting. I had trouble
I think you're going overboard
I
there.
had trouble containing, I gotta tell you.
All right, thank you for your engagement. Can I have,
Motion.
can I have a
Yeah.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. So who gave the motion?
Matt did,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
seconding.
good.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody.